Ah, yes, Aberdeen ski. This is not actually a picture of Aberdeen. I just liked the photo. This was before I realized that photographs of the city were crucial for the introduction. Sue me. Anyway, Aberdeen's got a bit to offer. If you haven't already seen it, check out our video about Sutcher & Sons' Star Wars shop, because that is definitely noteworthy. I will put a link in the comments below. On top of that, there are sculptures scattered here and there of these wacky mythical beasts, like the bark beetle beggar, the bald beagle. I tried to get an interview with him, but he wasn't talking. And who could forget the pile python? Kind of reminds me of Beetlejuice. Whatever the hell that thing is, we took a picture from across the street. And then this one's my favorite. And here we have part of an old graffitied bridge. It is significant because it was underneath this bridge that apparently Kurt Cobain liked to hang out sometimes. Or he lived under it, or whatever. I actually don't know a whole hell of a lot about the guy, I'm not going to speculate, but he made some pretty damn good music. So now, beside the bridge, on the banks of the Muddy Wishka, is a park that commemorates him. I don't actually get why there's an air guitar sitting here, but we borrowed it for a second. Alright, check this out. Let's tune it up real quick. I wonder if it's always an acoustic or if it's based on the will of the player. Okay, that should be good. Alright. Heading north out of Aberdeen, you will run into the Olympic Forest. I'm kind of going to gloss over it. There's a lot of mountains and hiking and fishing and camping and cool stuff. So check it out sometime. It's good to go in the summer. We did stop by this little tourist spot where there was this giant tree, and there happened to be a forest ranger there, so we asked him, like, hey man, how old is this big tree? And he's like, I don't know, 500 years or 1,000 or I don't know. Thank you. Very helpful. Just north of that is Forks, Washington. I'm going to give you the speed tour. It's a quaint little town surrounded by forests, famous for getting tons of rain. My buddy used to live there and told me it's haunted. It seems like a really good place to get meth, and aside from that, nothing else worth mentioning has ever been associated with Forks. Heading west, we bopped into Rialto Beach, named by Alexander the Great, not the 4th century BC Macedonian conqueror, but a magician who lived in the 1900s. Place is pretty nice. The weather was good, there's some really cool rock formations, and these frolicking pelicans. I would recommend going over there. Speaking of rock formations, how about Cape Flattery? Northwesternmost point in the continuous United States, it is extremely picturesque and full of awesome rock formations, including this one, Bird Rock, my favorite. Definitely go there. It's a short little hike through some really nice woods. It's just a majestic spot. I hear whales like to pass through there. In nearby Nia Bay is the Macaw Museum. They're a local tribe. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. A lot of stuff was learned and artifacts were recovered when a landslide exposed an old village, which then turned into an archaeological site. The museum charges a fee, so we're not going to give away their secrets. But 2 things I wanted to mention. A, those people made dog hair blankets, which I think is cool. And B, they were nuts. When they hunted a whale, they would stab it with a bunch of harpoons, and it would buoy the whale to keep it from diving. And once they lanced it and killed it, somebody had to dive into the water and sew its mouth shut so it didn't sink when they towed it back to shore. Here are a couple statues of macaw people. Apparently they had gray skin and were 8 feet tall. Interesting. A little to the east is Lake Crescent. I don't remember all the details, but you can Google this. There's this really odd story about this lady who was murdered, and her body was dumped in the lake, and years later when they recovered it, it had been mineralized into something resembling soap. We didn't really have time to stop in Port Angeles, which used to be the home of a chimpanzee who appeared in a movie with Ronald Reagan, but we did find time for a brief ferry ride and a visit to Fort Casey. With construction starting in 1897, by 1901 they were installing the large disappearing guns on movable carriages that could pop up, shoot at people, and then retreat behind the wall. But almost as soon as the fort was done, it became obsolete, largely due to the militarization of aircraft. Final little sight on our loop around the Olympic Peninsula was Deception Pass, a breathtaking view atop a 177-foot bridge, which you can walk across, and I'm told is pretty terrifying if you're baked. A bit. That's it.